Hello friends, myself Akshay Swami. I am from Asansol, West Bengal. So in this module, I would like to be talking about Kant's philosophy. I have picked some of the chapters from Kant's philosophy. So let's begin our discussion with the first topic, the sick. Homeopathy asserts that there are principles which govern the practice of medicine. It may be said that up till the time of Hahnemann, no principles of medicine were recognized, and even at this day, in the writings and actions of the old school, there is a complete acknowledgement that no principles exist. The old school declares that the practice of medicine depends entirely upon experience, upon what can be found out by giving medicines to the sick. Their shifting methods and theories and rapid discoveries and abandonment of the same fully attest the sincerity of their acknowledgements and declarations. Homeopathy leaves allopathy at this point, and so in this manner, the great division between the two schools is affected. That there are principles, homeopathy affirms. The old school denies the existence of principles, and with apparent reason, looking at the matter from the standpoint of their practice and methods. They deal only with ultimates. They observe only results of disease, and either deny or have no knowledge of the real nature of man, what he is, where he came from, what his quality is in sickness or in health. They say nothing about the man except in connection with these tissues. They characterize the changes in the tissues as the disease, and all there is of the disease, its beginning and its end. In effect, they proclaim disease to be something that exists without a cause. They accept nothing but what can be felt with the fingers and seen with the eyes or otherwise observed through the sense, aided by improved instruments. The finger is aided by the microscope to an elongated point, and the microscopic pathological results of disease are noted and considered to be beginning and the ending. That is, results without anything prior to them. That is a summary of allopathic teaching as to the nature of sickness. But homeopathy perceives that there is something prior to these results. Every science teaches, and every investigation of a scientific character proves that everything which exists does so because of something prior to it. As we see in the first aphorism, Hahnemann says, the physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is termed. The true homeopath, when he speaks of the sick, knows who is and what is sick, whereas the allopath does that in another way. The latter thinks that the house which the man lives in, which is being torn down, expresses all there is of sickness. In other words, that the tissues change, which are only the results of disease, are all that there of the sick man. The homeopath observes wonderful changes resulting from potentized medicine, and being compelled to reflect, he sees that crude drugs cannot heal the sick, and what changes they do effect are not real but only apparent. Modern physiology has no vital doctrine in its teaching, and therefore no basis to work upon. The doctrine of the vital force is not admitted by the teachers of physiology, and therefore the homeopath sees that true physiology is not yet taught. For without the vital force, without simple substance, without the internal as well as the external, there can be no cause and no relation between cause and effect. Now, what is meant by the sick? It is a man that is sick and to be restored to health, not his body, not the tissues. So you will find many people who will say, I am sick. They will enumerate pages of symptoms, pages of sufferings. They look sick, but they tell you. I have been to the most eminent physicians. I have had my chest examined. I have been to the neurologist. I have been to the cardiac specialist, and I have had my heart examined. The eye specialist has examined my eyes. I have been to the gynecologist and have had my uterus examined, says the woman. I have been physically examined from head to foot and they tell me I am not sick, I have no disease. A man has a necrotic condition of the hand. Then if we believe that only the hand is sick, we would think we had cured the patient by removing his hand. Say the hand is cancerous. According to this idea, it is cancerous in itself and from itself, and seeing he would later die from the cancer of his hand, we would conscientiously remove the hand and so cure the patient. But this is no method of cure. For an eruption of the skin, we would use local means to stimulate the functions of the skin and make it heal. And believing the eruption had no cause behind it, we would conscientiously think we had cured the patient. But this is not true, because nothing exists without a cause. The organs are not the man. The man is prior to the organs. From first to last is the order of sickness as well as the order of cure, from man to his organs and not from organs to the man. Well then, who is the sick? Is it the man? That is the question. Because the tissues could not become sick unless something prior to them had been deranged and so make them sick. So what is there of this man that can be called the internal man? What is there that can be removed so that whole that is physical may be left behind? We say that man dies, but he leaves his body behind. We dissect the body and find all of his organs. Everything that we know by the senses belongs to physical man. Everything that we can feel with the fingers and see with the eyes, he leaves behind. The real sick man is prior to the sick body, and we must conclude that the sick man be somewhere in that portion which is not left behind. That which is carried away is primary and which is left behind is ultimate. We say the man feels, sees, tastes, hears, he thinks and he lives, but these are only outward manifestations of thinking and living. The man wills and understands. The cadaver does not will and does not understand. Then that which takes its departure is that which knows and wills. The will is expressed in the face. Its result is implanted in the countenance, that is the facial expression. Allopathic pathology recognizes nothing but man's body. Yet one can easily confuse the allopath by asking him what man's thought is, what man is. The homeopath must master these things before he can perceive the nature of the cause of disease and before he can understand what cure is. It is the only duty of physician to heal the sick. It is not his sole duty to heal the results of sickness, but the sickness itself. When the man himself has been restored to health, there will be restored harmony in the tissues and in their activities. Then the sole duty of the physician is to put in order the interior of the economy, that is the will and understanding conjoined. So what is the internal? It is the will and it is the understanding. Tissue changes are of the body and are the results of disease. They are not the disease. So there is a very minute gap between what is sick and what is diseased, what is sickness. So Hahnemann once said, there are no diseases but sick people, from which it is clear that Hahnemann understood that the diseases so called, example, Bright's disease, liver disease, etc., were but the grosser forms of disease results. That is appearance of disease, but they were not the real cause of sickness. I'd like to add that this first disorder of government, and this proceeds from within outward until we have pathological changes in the tissues. In the practice of medicine today, the idea of government is not found and the tissue changes only are taken into account. He who considers disease results to be the disease itself and expects to do away with these as disease is insane. There is some fault in him. Because it is an insanity in medicine, an insanity that has grown out of the milder forms of mental disorder in science, crazy whims. The bacteria are results of disease. In the course of time, we will be able to show perfectly that the microscopical little fellows are not the disease cause, but that they come after, that they are scavengers accompanying the disease, and that they are perfectly harmless in every respect. They are the outcome of disease, are present wherever the disease is, and by microscope it has been discovered that every pathological result has its corresponding bacteria. So basically there is a lot of difference between the disease and the sickness and the cause and the resultants. Now the question arises that why are some protected and why do others become sick? These things must be settled by the doctrines of homeopathy. Idiosyncrasies must be accounted for. Many physicians waste their time searching after the things that make their patient sick. The sick man will be made sick under every circumstance, whereas the healthy man could live in a lazaretto. It is not the principal business of the physician to be hunting in the rivers and the cellars and examining the food we eat for the cause of disease. It is his duty to bunt out the symptoms of the sickness until a remedy is found that covers the disorder. That remedy which will produce on healthy man similar symptoms is the master of the situation. It is the necessary antidote, will overcome the sickness, restore the will and understanding in order to cure the patient. Next, I would like to tell that we see the diseases affecting first man's mind and proceeding from the mind to the physical economy, to the outermost, to the skin, the hair, the nails. If medicines are not thus studied, we will find no knowledge of them. The materia medica has been established upon these bases. Sickness must therefore be examined by a thorough scrutiny of the elements that make morbid changes that exist in the likeness of drug symptoms. To the extent that drugs in province upon healthy man have brought out symptoms on animal ultimates, must we study sickness with the hope of adjusting remedies to sickness in man under the law of similars. The totality of symptoms written out carefully is all that we know of the internal nature of sickness. Then the proper administration of the similar remedy will constitute the art of healing. So in this chapter we come to know what the sick is, what the disease is, and why do some people become sick and why others not. I hope it was very beneficial. Thanks a lot for listening.